I'm Hernando County Sheriff Al Nienhuis, and welcome to another episode of Just the Facts. As I said before, I'm not long on introduction, so we're going to jump right in with our guest, Elisha. Elisha, welcome, and why don't you tell our viewers how long you've been with the Sheriff's Office and what your current position is?
Hello, my name is Elisha Oquendo-Montes. I'm the Victim Advocate with Majored Case, and I've been with the agency. This month, they'll make 4 years.
4 years already, wow. And, Victim Advocate, I think most people understand it's a very, very important position in the Sheriff's Office, and we'll go into that more. But how many Victim Advocates do we have here at Hernando County Sheriff's Office?
Sheriff, it's just me.
Just you. So you're, one riot, one ranger when it comes to Victim Advocate and victim services, yeah. It's a very, very important role. Having been in this business for a long time, I realize that no matter how horrific the scene is, when law enforcement gets there, they have so many things that they have to get done and so many things that they really are goals they're trying to get to. It's pretty easy sometimes to forget that maybe a particular individual has gone through a very horrific experience, and we're asking them rapid fire questions about who did this, which way did they go, and all that stuff. And as soon as we get done talking to them and we're off to chase the bad guy, that's where you come in, right?
Okay.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about, how you approach that and maybe some of the steps you go through when you come across a victim of really any serious crime.
Of course. So I handle anything from homicide, sexual assault, domestic violence, and even suicide. So every case is different, and I just go at the pace of my survivor. Sometimes they want me to be fully involved, and I will be fully involved, but I do what they allow me. And some of my services consist of just offering emotional support, helping with applications, transporting them to court hearings, and just being there for them.
Being there for them. So you stayed pretty busy. We didn't really talk about this beforehand, but do you have any idea of how many people you're actively working with at the moment? Do you keep records of that and so forth? Because I know we were trying to do this a couple of days ago, and you had kind of back-to-back appointments with victims. So tell us a little bit about that, how long you typically work with them and how many you may have at any given time.
So what I love about this position is that I don't have a case closed stamp. I'm with my survivor as long as they allow me to. I have some survivors that I stay in contact with from 4 years ago.
Wow.
So I can stay with them years, and I love that. For me, the most important thing is that they know that I'm just a phone call away. As of right now, this morning, I was dealing with 7 different victims this morning.
Just this morning,
Just this
7.
morning,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
This
All right,
morning.
wow. Yeah, because I know even before we started, you said, Sheriff, just give me 1 or 2 minutes. I'm finishing something up
Yeah.
here. I think you were sending an email or
sending an
something
email.
like that. Even though crime has gone down, it certainly has not gone to zero. And this is a pretty big county. So even if we have, fairly sporadic, serious crimes, obviously most of those crimes have some sort of victim, whether it's somebody who's actually a physical victim, they've actually been the victim of a crime, or they're a collateral victim, like you talk about suicides and, the family members. And I'm sure that can weigh heavy on you sometimes because some of the things that these people have gone through are just heart-wrenching, to say the least. So what kind of, other than just being there for emotional support, is there anything, talking about, and we're going to talk about a specific crime in just a minute because it's October, but when you're talking about a general crime, like you have maybe a family member who has committed suicide, or maybe there's been a murder and the family's involved, is there any type of particular services that you find that are maybe more effective than others? Are there like support groups, or what typically do you offer that you find might be helpful for a particular individual?
I tailor my services to the survivors or victims' needs. It can go from taking them to a group therapy session, or it can be one-on-one on telehealth and me just setting it up for them. There's a laundry list of services out there, and a lot of people are not aware of them. So it's my job to connect them with those resources.
Yeah. Even I think law enforcement at times doesn't always know what's available for citizens. And I think that's I think it's so important to have somebody like you, because I think, sometimes even I think there aren't many services out there. And, there might not be a service for a particular need, a very specific need, but there are a lot of opportunities out there for people to get help if they're willing and able to reach out to you or to that particular service. This is, since we're getting into October, every year we always talk about one particular crime, and that's domestic violence. And one thing that when I got into law enforcement was really surprising to me is that what you see on TV is oftentimes kind of a stereotypical victim. And do you find that all your victims of domestic violence are the same?
No.
They're
No. So Domestic Violence Awareness Month is a very important month here at the Sheriff's Office, and it's recognized all over the United States.
Right.
It started in the 1980s, and it's to spread awareness to victims of domestic violence. Here at the Sheriff's Office, we like to promote Domestic Violence Awareness Month by taking a photo of major crimes wearing purple. Right. It shows that you're not alone, and you have a team behind you to support you.
Right. Well, who have you found can be a victim? I know typically, and probably the majority of individuals, oftentimes are people that are in a love relationship, whether they're married or boyfriend, girlfriend, and oftentimes the victim is female, but that's not the case. If somebody is a victim, whether they're a child or a sibling, brother, sister, or even a man, there are services for those individuals as well, correct?
Yeah, so actually, I'll share some numbers. 1 in 4 women are victims of domestic violence. 1 in 7 men are victims of domestic violence.
Right.
So the numbers are very important. We're trying to get those numbers down. And by spreading awareness, that's how we're going to do it. Most importantly, here at the Sheriff's Office, I like to empower our survivors so they can spread awareness themselves.
Right.
And here in the community, we can share a photo, share some information, and we're actually going to add a link so you can click on there and read some information. It's for the Domestic Violence Awareness Hotline.
Right. And that's a national, we should have links to both a national resource that will give you information anywhere in the country, but we also have resources right here. One in particular that's pretty well known, has been around for at least a couple decades, and that's the Dawn Center. Do you ever work with them?
Correct. Our community partner, the Dawn Center,
right.
They offer shelter for people in need. They also offer legal advice, and they can help with applications for victim compensation, which is a reimbursement program for victims of a major crime.
Yeah, and I think, I was even thinking about it earlier today because I knew we were getting ready to do this podcast. And, I think the average person may look or may hear about a victim of domestic violence and, whether it's a wife or a husband or a child in the household or anybody who's a victim. And we all wonder, and I'll admit that I've wondered sometimes, why don't they just get help? Why don't they just leave? Why don't they reach out to somebody? But I think, probably something you deal with, I would imagine, is even though people know that they're in a very bad situation, sometimes the fear of change is scarier than what they know, even if what they know is terrible. So do you have any resources as there counseling out there, things that if a victim is at a point where they may consider wanting to make a change, are there resources out there for somebody to help them bridge that gap of fear where they can actually make a change and break away from that violent situation or that oppressive situation?
Absolutely. So, like I said earlier, I tailor my resources depending on my case. And the first step is reporting. Second step is document everything. That way, when you come, I can see what you're in need and I can help you with that. If you have any questions pertaining to DV, you're more than welcome to contact me at the Sheriff's Office and we can sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's important because knowledge is power and having a plan is power. And I think another thing that is very important for our viewers to understand is that there is kind of a wide gap between what is criminal domestic violence or criminal assault or criminal battery and what some people may define as domestic violence or oppression or treating people badly, and oftentimes, as frustrating as it is for everybody involved, what somebody might be dealing with is not a crime. And that's where you can come in, because we may not be able to arrest the person who is, for lack of a better term, the aggressor. Obviously, if a crime occurs, the aggressor is going to go to jail, and we have a pretty good history of that. But sometimes, unfortunately, we get called before it becomes a crime, and our only resource is to arrest if you're in law enforcement, or refer them to some sort of services, and you are definitely the point person for that. So, I think it's important to encourage our listeners that just because we come out and we may not be able to make an arrest, it doesn't necessarily mean we don't want to try to help and prevent it getting to the point where there is an arrest. And I think it's frustrating, even sometimes people that are on the sidelines watching, family members that know that this is a volatile situation, and they want us to come in and be able to do some sort of miracle when no crime has occurred. And that's very difficult for us. And also the person who is on the receiving end of that has to have a willingness. And like I said, fear might get in the way of that. So it's extremely important to reach out. And unfortunately, a lot of times in these situations, the person who's on the receiving end of that, whether it's criminal violence or whether it's some sort of other oppression, they get cut off from resources. And it can be very difficult for them, but they have to be able to reach out and ask for help to hopefully prevent them from something much worse from happening. Because obviously, these things usually escalate, and I know you've seen that too. And we do something now, it's actually in law. It's called a lethality assessment, and it just recently went into law where law enforcement officers, if they come across some sort of suspected domestic violence, they have certain questions they have to ask, and people may not understand why, but it's been shown statistically, I guess, to help predict, and there's no way to predict what a human's going to do, but help predict whether this may turn to extreme violence and maybe even death for the victim, and gives us even way to even more prioritize that particular situation and hopefully prevent them from becoming the victim of some sort of serious physical violence. So, as we said, I know we're going to put links to the local domestic violence center and information. They have a whole lot of information there. We're going to do it also to the national hotline and a web page that has information there. Is there anything else that you think is important, that whether it's about just your job in general for all victims, or for particularly this month, domestic violence victims?
For this month, I would just want to say to the community to not be judgmental, to have an open heart and listen. Sometimes someone just needs a listening ear, and a lot of the times that's what I do. I'm just a listening ear, and I say, what can I do for you?
Well, and again, I think that's an extremely good point. And I think law enforcement is relatively good at that, but they're busy, and their primary focus is to seek justice through the court system, and that's what they're focused on. But I think you're absolutely right. I think sometimes when you're in these situations, you begin to wonder, am I just imagining this? Am I overreacting, or am I really? And that's where it helps to reach out to somebody and say, this is what's going on. Is this something I should get some help with, whether it's counseling or a criminal report, offense report, or something like that, or anything in between. So very good point. Anything else?
I've had survivors just reach out to me to thank me for, hey, thank you for listening to me that night. I just needed someone to listen. I feel like no one's listening to me. Right. And from our conversation that we're having, we develop a safety plan, because that's number one, is having a safety plan. So I'm glad that my resources are out there. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the sheriff's office, and
Yeah, just call the main number and ask for the victim advocate. They have your extension. They can. What is your extension anyway? Just for our
53727.
53727. So if you call the main number and ask for that extension, Elisha will be happy to talk with you about it. Maybe even set up an appointment if you feel you're a victim, or if you are just in a bad situation and you want to get some advice. Because again, her purpose is to have those resources available for our citizens, and there's probably very few crimes serious crimes that you haven't been involved in. So you have experience. And one thing, just talking with you and knowing you, I know your heart's in the right place. And much like all of our people, they really want to help our citizens. And sometimes our jobs are different. Law enforcement is different than the victim advocate or deputy. But I can see that you certainly have a passion for this, and you obviously stay very busy. And I think I can speak on behalf of the citizens that we really appreciate what you do every day. So thank you for that. And for those of you watching, we certainly appreciate your support. As I say all the time, we never, ever take it for granted. But you can do us a favor. If you're watching on social media, go ahead and follow the Sheriff's Office social media site. Go ahead and click like, so the algorithm will push us out to more people. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Again, like this particular video, and feel free to share it with your friends. Maybe if you have somebody who you think might be the victim of domestic violence or any other crime, and you think they may need some help, let them take a look at this video, and you might be the difference between them being successful and thriving from this point forward, and you may actually prevent them from being a victim of a crime. You may even save their life. As always, thank you for your support. We never take it for granted.